Yes, everybody, welcome back. Yesterday, we did a video looking at 5 issues in Manchester United's midfield, the 5 things that we learned across the season. Today, we're going to be looking at 5 midfielders that could come in and solve some of the problems that we talked about yesterday. Let's get straight into it. Number 1 then is going to be Donny van de Beek. Why? Well, because we just signed him. That's why. Donny van de Beek has signed. Obviously, we need to include him. There's no way that we're not going to do that. 14 goals and 7 assists as from Who Scored. Very versatile midfielder. Literally played in every single position across midfield. He played at defensive midfield, a regular central midfield, box-to-box number 8, and he's also played as a bit of a number 10 as well. We had a journalist on Stretford Paddock last week who had said that Solskjaer had phoned him. He's told him that he's going to be playing understudy to Bruno, understudy to Pogba, but even though that sounds like a demotion, a squad player almost, I actually think he's going to play somewhere in the region of 30-35 games from the start. It gives Bruno a night off when needed, gives Pogba a night off when needed. He's got creativity. He's got versatility. He's got a lot of Michael Carrick about him. Composure, vision, and I think he obviously fulfills a number of roles that United need, but the biggest one for me that he fulfills is the depth, and it's quality in depth. So many times we've seen Solskjaer look over his shoulder and go, Jesus Christ, what am I trying to bring in here? And that's why we saw the same 11 play time and time again, because Solskjaer didn't trust what he had to be able to rotate. Same 11 week in, week out. The issues with that is very easy for your opponents to guess what you're going to do. Very easy for your opponents to prepare for what you're going to do, if that is the case. And also, teams can just stagnate. You need to be able to have a little bit of competition in there so no one relaxes too much in their position. Donny van de Beek coming in. He's going to offer plenty of that. A little bit of pressure on Pogba, never a bad thing. A little bit of pressure on Bruno, can't be a bad thing. And a little bit of competition for Fred if he sticks around, and obviously for Scott McTominay, and possibly even Nemanja Matic. Number 2 then, Thiago Alcantara. Played predominantly as a defensive midfielder this season, 24 appearances there. Average rating on Who Scored of 7.78. 3 goals and 2 assists. Obviously not what he's going to be in the team for, but this is 3.4 tackles per 90 in the Champions League. Only 2.3 in all comps. 2 interceptions per 90. Still managing 1 key pass per 90, but a 90.7% pass success rate per 90. This, for me, is the bringing in a replacement for Nemanja Matic. This is your Michael Carrick for the new generation. This is what Paul Scholes would be if he was a modern footballer right now that had athleticism. He's a wonderful footballer, dictates play from deep, just absolutely quality. My fear of him is going to Liverpool, because I look at Liverpool and I go, how do you improve upon what they've got at the moment? Well, at the moment, they've got a very functional midfield. If you bring in Thiago Alcantara, they've now got a very dangerous midfield. I would love to see him to come to United, because I think he definitely builds on what we're trying to do at the moment. And then you've got 4 genuinely top players, Thiago, Van der Beek, Pogba, Bruno, all going for only 3 starting spots. Now, people go, well, how do they play together? Well, guess what? They'll play. There'll be times when someone's got a bit of a tight hamstring, times when someone's ankle's a little bit rough. All of those times when someone's going to have to make way or sit aside, and that is the time where you bring in one of the others. Like United used to play 4-4-2, and we had 4 strikers, and they were all happy and utilised. It's time to go back to having more players than just a good 11. And Thiago Alcantara, for me, adds quality, he adds depth, and he adds a lot of experience at the very top level, and that is something we massively, massively need. Number 3, while we're looking at some cheap buys, and I think we've got Donny van de Beek over the line quite cheaply, and if we got Thiago, rumoured price for him's very reasonable. And a probable cheap option would be Buendia, probably the cheapest option on this list. Bit of a diamond in the rough, relegated with Norwich, but I wouldn't see that as an issue. Harry Maguire and Robertson were both relegated with Hull. There's been good players relegated in the past that have gone on and won titles. And Buendia is probably one of the most creative and forward-thinking players. He's overshadowed by Todd Cantwell, but for me, he's a little bit of a similar sort of player, possibly even better. 36 appearances, 8 off the bench. Buendia scored 1 goal and got 7 assists. 2.3 key passes per game. That's more than Pogba and Bruno. 1.1 shots, which is less. 2.8 dribbles per 90, 17 through balls, which is the third in the Premier League for a team as bad as Norwich, is pretty good. 9 big chances created, which matches the most that United saw, again, in a very poor team. Definitely a quality player. Transfermarkt, I've got him listed at £13 million. Now, even if with the United tax doubles that, £25 million, not a bad bit of business. And like we said, he adds depth. He adds someone getting a night off. He adds something a little bit different. And I think he'd be a decent option if we are looking in that sort of bargain basement kind of buy. Something totally different then, and you know I was not getting through a list without mentioning this guy. This is not a bargain basement buy. This is your blockbuster, world-class, big money midfielder, Saul Niguez. 25 years old, loads of years left in the tank, long-term and immediate replacement for Nemanja Matic. Quality. Obviously, depth. A guy that's bulletproof is going to start week in, week out for you. 7 goals this season from that deep position. Fantastic. 2.6 tackles per game. 1.1 interceptions. 87.4% pass completion per 90. He just improves on so many areas of the pitch. And Niguez beats... You saw how well Matic performed. Niguez outperforms in every single level apart from being Serbian. Matic is way more Serbian. He will be expensive. It was reported back in August that United would offer him a contract worth 150 grand a week. Transfermarkt have him linked at £64 million. The talk is it would be somewhere in the region of £80 to £90 million to get him out of Atletico Madrid. But for me, if you're going to push the boat out, there's a couple of players that you push the boat out for. This is a world-class central midfielder. He's a combative midfielder. He's everything we hoped and prayed Ander Herrera could be. He is the evolution of what Ander Herrera is as a footballer. He's got the shithouse side. He's got the ball-playing side. He's got the tackling side. He's got the positioning side. He's fucking mint, and I would love him at Old Trafford. And finally, a little bit because he's been reported and linked with Manchester United today, but I think it's worth mentioning anyway. N'Golo Kante. The Express reported today that United are going to make a move for him if Chelsea give them transfer encouragement, which is a little bit of a cheap one from a journalist, I imagine. But Kante is probably one of the best holding midfielders, or certainly one of the best in his position in the world. He is 29 years of age, and he certainly won't be cheap, and I especially can't imagine Chelsea would like to sell him to another top 4 rival. This season he got 3 goals, 0 assists, 2.1 tackles, 2 interceptions. You don't need me to go through the stats about what N'Golo Kante is. N'Golo Kante has almost redefined what an aggressive attacking defensive midfielder should be. We also saw under Conte the sort of positional versatility that he's got. But when you've got the players like Bruno and Pogba and Van der Beek, if you want someone to just sit in there and be an absolute nuisance, an absolute destroyer, which is an oversimplification of what you get from Kante, but if you want someone that does that, Kante is fantastic for it. And if Chelsea do need to get him off the wages, if amongst all their signings they've gone, he's not going to play, then I actually think you probably could get him out of there. Now, out of the players listed on this list, he's probably the least likely to happen, and that includes Thiago. But I thought it's worth mentioning because we know that basically both the clubs he's played for in the Premier League have gone on to win the Premier League with him in it. I don't think he would, on his own, transform United from being third to champions, but I certainly think he adds experience, he adds steel, and he adds a completely different style of midfielder to what we've got at the club at the moment. Well, that's my 5 midfielders that I think could improve Manchester United and fix some of the problems that we mentioned yesterday. Give us your shouts in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters.